Shalom, beloveds of the King. Yeah, we are back today to be able to, we pray that Abba willing, we will be able to close off this series that we've been doing on the Prophetic Insights, and where I will share the last dream and then vision, and then hopefully we can bring everything together of what Abba's been saying and what Abba's been doing in these last few weeks, as he's been getting us to be able to put this prophetic insight together as we are flying out next week Friday, Abba willing. And Abba's already given us so much that's got to be done, for our trip, and we are excited. So I'm excited in having to see what Abba's wanting to do in this time, because the excitement is in the air of the month of Elul, and how we are in a time of great introspection. He's shining magnifying glass, revealing deeper within our hearts in the things of where He's really wanting us to be able to line up with His ways. And I really see, I have a banner that I made. Somebody painted it for me, and then I had the painting made in a banner. It's like that I had put together. And yesterday I felt to put it up in my office, which is my little safe haven. My office is my prayer closet. It's everything. So I felt to put it up there, and I just feel this is the prophetic time of this banner, which this banner is a bride being birthed out of the fire. She's coming out of the flames of fire. And boy, we're still seeing fire around the world. I mean, Portugal has been on fire for the last 2-3 months, that these fires have been raging out of control. Our nation has had fires. We've got America is on fire. Then it's Canada. It's Europe. There's so many different places that are on fire. So truly, fire is all around us. Even last week, I had fire I woke up in the middle of the night and I could smell fire. Twice I could smell fire, and I thought, what is going on? Abba, what is this? And twice in the middle of the night I woke up and I could smell fire. I could smell smoke. By the third time, I think it was about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I could smell the smoke. I said, what? Abba says, pray. I had to pray because there was fire. I don't know where this fire was, but I just know that I could smell the smoke. So this bride is coming out of the fire, and then she's looking up at a glory cloud above her. And this is what it is. This whole series of the prophetic insight is really to birth forth a remnant, which is really a bride that needs to come forth and needs to be able to go forth filled with His glory, to be able to be manifested in a time of great darkness. So we're going to start off in prayer. Not like last week, I got myself so excited into speaking that then I even forgot to start off in prayer. So let me start off in prayer. Abba Father, oh my King, I just want to thank You. I just want to thank You, Abba Father, for this time that we've had of this prophetic insight. Thank You, Abba Father, that You're truly wanting to speak to Your people in this hour, that You're truly wanting to be able to get us into a place of where we can come forth, be birthed in this hour, come forth as a remnant, a priestly bride that can really come forth. Abba, I pray that truly throughout this next teaching that I've got to do, which is on a dream and on the vision, that You will just open up the eyes of our understanding, open up our hearts, open up our minds. Let us be able to to really understand in a deeper way what it is that you are wanting to speak in this hour. Father, this is not about me. This is not about my vision or my dream or anything that is pertaining to me, but this is all about you and what you are saying and what you want to do. Father, I pray, let me get out of the way so that your Ruach HaKodesh can speak through my mouth, speak to my mind, speak to my heart, the very oracles that you wanting to reveal for this time. As Abba, we really need the pearls now that come from heaven. These nuggets of gold that need to be able to come forth so that we can understand seasons and times. As you have put seasons and times in place for a purpose, for a reason. And so I just want to thank you, Abba Father, that truly we can commit this time to you and allow you to be able to open up your word to us so that we can see the deeper things that are there. So that truly your people can be set free. So that truly your people can come into the fullness of understanding who they are and what are they, who they're wanting to be, and what is it that you're wanting to do in this hour. And we all have choices. And so I pray, Abba Father, help us, my King, that as we listen, that we make the right choices within our hearts. Give us ears to hear, so that we may be able to discern that which you are wanting to speak in this hour. In Yeshua's name I pray this. Amen. Okay. So last week we basically had a look at a dream that I had when I saw my Jerusalem poster fall, and how in this dream there was destruction of floods and blackouts and all of this happening, and how we needed to pack a bag and we needed to leave. And we are in a time now where we really need to be able to understand that more and more the word is going forth that this is a time of where we need to repent. We are in the month of Elul, so we really need to repent. And so I think after the next two dreams, well, the next dream and the next vision that I'm going to share, is that people will really understand that we are in a critical hour. And so I want to share a dream that I had. I want to share a dream that I had this was in 2014, so like I said, if I take the third day, October, we got back from Israel on the 23rd of October. 23rd of October 2014, we had been on a mission that Abba had sent us on, where we had gone to, Abba had us do we got back on the 24th of October. I'm just looking at my diary here. It was the 24th of October. Abba had us do a mission where he sent us we went first into Turkey. From Turkey we flew into Greece, and we were on the island of Patmos on the day of Yom Teruah, and Abba had gave me instruction that I was to declare the book of Revelation on the island of Patmos, and it was amazing because that happened to fall on the day of Yom Teruah. I explained all of that in one of the other teachings. And then from there we had to, work our way through Greece, and then from there go to Israel. So, and then on our way back we stopped off a day again, overnight in Turkey. And so, my goodness, we had done Greece, we had done Turkey, we did Israel, and the day that we arrived, on that Friday evening, we got home. It was Friday evening when my husband picked us up from the airport, and when we were driving home, it was like I felt this thick darkness, this cloud of thick darkness that came over us. that was like over me. Like I could just sense the wickedness and the evil in the air. And what's so interesting is that I didn't experience this in Turkey. I didn't experience it in Greece. I didn't experience it in Israel. But I was experiencing it in this nation. I can't explain it to you. It was like a thick darkness. When this thick darkness creeps up on you, it was like that. And anyway, so that night, we were exhausted. We had 11-hour stopover at the airport, so we hadn't really got a lot of sleep. And so I was exhausted. Went to bed and had a nice, relaxing evening and slept. And in the early hours of that morning, I had this dream. And once again, it's one of those dreams that Abba made sure that I took note of, because like I said to you, I don't have a lot of prophetic dreams. So if I do, they are significant. So I was standing on a high place, and I'm looking down, and all of a sudden, it was like I don't know if it was on a hill or something, it was like a high place, and I'm looking down on this valley. It was like a valley that I was looking down on. And I saw thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and they were like standing in a valley. And all these, and I said to myself, who are these people? Because I'm looking, I'm just seeing thousands, like multitudes of people, thousands and thousands. And they were standing in this valley, and I was like in this high place, like up on a hill, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, but who are these people? Who are these people? And the next minute, Yeshua is standing next to me, and he says, these are the multitudes in the valley of decision. And I thought, what do you mean? Multitudes in the valley of decision. He said, these are those that need to make decisions to follow me and my ways. And then I looked and I said, goodness, are these like unsaved people? So I said, I thought, are these unsaved people? And I realized that these were not only people that didn't know him. These were people that knew him, but were not obeying and following him and his ways. They needed to make a decision to be set apart for him. And these were many. So imagine, I'm looking at multitudes, and the Father says, these are the multitudes in the valley of decision, and they are those that need to make decisions to follow me and follow my ways. And then he said to me, so as I'm standing there and I'm looking at them and I'm saying, but these are many. And he says, I'm sealing people off. I'm sealing people off now and cutting others from those that are his and those that are not. So I'm sealing some off and I'm cutting others off. I'm sealing off those that are mine from those that are not. He says, we need to now, more than ever, listen to him and discern and draw near to him and focus on him. So, these are the things that he's saying to me. I'm sealing off those that are mine. Now remember, last week when I shared on this was now, remember I read to you that it was the beginning of February of 2014 when Father gave me all those concordance numbers, and he gave me 20 concordance numbers with a specific message. And the very first message was the one of the concordance number H2856, means to seal up, to mark. To seal up, to mark, to seal up those that are his. So this is now in October. This dream I had on the 24th, which would have been the early hours of the morning of the 25th. And in this dream, he's telling me, I'm sealing people off now and cutting others off from those that are his and those that are not. And then I saw him drawing a line, like in the sand. And then I saw a big chism, like a big rift that started taking place. So he drew like a line in the sand, and it was like a big chism, a big rift. Like when when an earthquake is taking place and then you start to see the earth cracking, it was like cracking like that. And this rift was getting bigger and bigger. It was, and the people that were on the one side, if that thing got big enough, like when the rift gets big enough, if it gets bigger and bigger, it forms like a huge cliff, almost like down to the bottom, that the people that are on the one side cannot get to the other side, and those that are on the other side cannot get to this side because it's divided. And he says, then he said to me, every decision that you make is going to cost you. If you sow to your flesh, you will reap of the flesh. If you sow to the Spirit, you will reap of the Spirit. Because a little leaven leavens the whole bunch. So, what he showed me when I saw that rift, the people, if you were with the people that were on the side where they were contaminated, where they were the multitudes that were not making a decision to follow him, if you were still in the ways of the world, behaving like the world, and not wanting to follow him and his ways, when this earthquake was going to take place, if you were on that side, the little leaven, so the leaven of those people that are not walking in his ways is the leaven that is going to contaminate you. Because remember, no amount, we read this already when we did Haggai, no amount of your goodness is going to make them good. But their contamination is going to contaminate you. So what he was saying, I'm drawing a line in the sand. Choose you this day who you go, where you want to be. If you want to be with these people that still have decisions to make and don't want to follow me, you will be staying in that camp. Otherwise, you have to make a decision to come to this side. So, this is an hour to listen only to him and to be led only by him. He will guide. We are not to move if he does not move. Because that's why he said in my dream, every decision that you make is going to cost you. If you sow to your flesh, you will reap of the flesh. If you sow to the Spirit, you will reap of the Spirit. The gap between good and evil is getting bigger. And if we don't decide now to listen and obey him, we will be taken out by the enemy as the whole world is under the sway of the enemy. And if we hang out more with the unrighteous, we will become more unrighteous. That is what he was telling me. If you were going to make a decision to stay in that camp with these people that are unrighteous and have decisions to make, to be able to follow him, we will become like them, because eventually they will contaminate us. And then when this rift takes place, of this earthquake that's taking place, you're going to try to come back and you're not going to be able to come back. And the next minute I start to see all these people, and now I've got such a burden for them, and I start to scream. And I start screaming in my dream, and I start screaming and I'm saying, wake up! Wake up! But they can't hear me. I was crying, and Yahushua said, they're deaf, they cannot hear, they're blind, they cannot see. And I remember looking at those people, and I was screaming. I was so desperately screaming at them to wake up, because they needed to hear. They needed to hear a wake-up call. They needed to get this wake-up call to say, today is the day that you need to make a decision now to be obedient to him, to obey him, to come out of this place of complacency, to come out of this place of where you are, where you're not making the decision to follow him, where you're sitting with the crowd and you're not wanting to be set apart unto him. And today is the day that you need to wake up, and you need to be able to hear him crying out to you, to be able to come to him. And I was screaming. I actually woke up out of my dream screaming, wake up! Wake up! But Yeshua was saying to me, they are deaf, they cannot hear. They are blind, they cannot see. So, you understand when I say to you that this is the third day, and now we are coming into the third year that I actually got this dream. We are in the third day, which is the whole reason why Abba had me start this message, because of everything that he did, like I explained in the Garden of Gethsemane. I mean, not in the Garden of Gethsemane, the Garden Tomb, when we were at the tomb for the resurrection. And he gave me clear instruction to say that this is the third day. And I have spoken of Hosea chapter 6, where he says we are in the third day, where we are to live before him. And now is an hour to wake up and to choose to obey and follow Abba. And so I was so disturbed by this dream. As a matter of fact, I had that very day, that evening, I had a 21st that I had to go to. And this was now a girl who knows the Father, and her family know the Father. She was a child of Yahuwah. And she was having this 21st. And anyway, we went to be able to, to this 21st, as this girl was very dear to me. And while sitting there, most of the people that are at this 21st are unsaved people. And now I'm looking at these unsafe people, but I'm looking at her and her family that are saved, and I'm seeing the way everybody's behaving. And this music that is playing, which is this unholy music. As a matter of fact, one of the songs I'll never forget, I was listening to the words of the song and I said, "Oh, my Father, have mercy." It says, "Take me into the dark. I want to experience your darkness." And I'm thinking, I can't believe it. And I sat there at the table, and all I could do was weep. And that day, Abba spoke to me, and he said to me, "Today you make a decision. Today you make a decision. Do you want to be with these people? Do you want to be about this? Or are you going to be set apart? Remember, a little leaven leavens the whole bunch." And he says, "I am looking for a set apart people. Those who will be set apart unto me. What are you doing here?" It's not like I was there to have to minister to anybody. I was there because I was going to this 21st birthday party. And eventually, both Elsie and I were feeling so uncomfortable that I couldn't even listen to this music anymore, as it was even contaminating my very soul. And I realized, I don't belong to this world. I don't belong to this. I'm not a part of this. If you want to call yourself a Christian and you want to behave like the world and act like the world and be like the world, then that's your choice. But I just had a dream where Abba said to me, multitudes in the valley of decision. And from there, I made a conscious decision that I was not going to allow myself to put myself in places that I'm going to please people just because people want me to be there and not seek Abba. Because he said, every decision that you make from now is going to cost you. Every decision. Just because it looks good, just because it sounds good, doesn't mean to say it's from the Father. Remember clearly, the tree that was in the garden was a tree of knowledge of good and evil. So just because it sounds good, it looks good, it doesn't mean to say it's from the Father. And that is why it is of the utmost importance. We got a lot of people running around doing a lot of good things because it sounds so good. But let me tell you something. If you are about a bunch of things that the Father never told you to do, just because you think your flesh needs to do it because you think it's a good thing, I say to you today, that very thing that you think you're doing that is so good in your flesh could be keeping you from the very thing that Abba's really got for you to walk in, that you're not walking in. And therefore you will be in disobedience. And when the time comes, remember, When your works will be tested, it will be the hay, the rubble, and the straw. And only the precious stones will remain. Only the silver and the gold and the precious stones will remain. Everything else that's hay, rubble, and straw will be go up in smoke. And so this is something that I really gleaned out of this dream, is that he said, a little leaven is going to leaven the whole bunch. So there is a set apartness that's taking place now where the Father says, come out from among them. I no longer want mixed seed. So once I started praying, just after this dream, I tell you, I was flustered. I was in a state, and I immediately started to pray, and I said, Abba, I know that you are showing me something here. Who are these people, these multitudes in the valley of decision? Abba, give me scripture. I need a scripture to go with this dream. And immediately, as I started to pray about this dream, Abba gave me 2 scriptures. And the first one we're going to look at is going to be from Ephesians 5, verses 14 to 17. So, we're going to go to Ephesians 5. I'm going to read it I'll read it in my scriptures, but then I'm also going to read it in the New King James, because it just says it. Actually, yeah, I'll read it from both. So Ephesians 5 from verse 14 says, that is why he says, wake up, you who sleep, and arise from the dead, and Messiah shall shine on you. See that you walk exactly, not as unwise, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are wicked. So then, do not be foolish, but understand what the desire of Yahuwah is. Now, you can't get more straightforward than that. I mean, it's wake up. And that's exactly what I was doing in my dream. I was saying, wake up. So, we read here in Ephesians 5 from verses 14. I'm going to read it in the New King James. It says, awake, you who sleep, arise from the dead, and Messiah will give you light. So, we need to wake up from this place of where we are sleeping. Because right now, the bride should be coming forth into the fullness of His glory. But a lot of them are still sleeping. They don't even discern what's going on around. Because a lot of them they cannot hear. They are deaf, they cannot hear. They are blind, they cannot see. Because they are with the crowd. They're moving with the crowd. They're moving with these multitudes. They're standing with these multitudes. And these multitudes are leading them astray. They cannot hear them. Because they are going with the flow of what is out there. And they are not discerning what it truly means to be set apart. See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise. Okay, so that word circumspectly. That word circumspectly is the word in the Greek. It's a G199, which is akribos, which means walk exactly, which is the word that we read in the other, in the Scriptures Bible. It says exactly, walk exactly, accurately, diligently, perfectly. Now, perfect is the word for tamim. And that word tamim means integrity, truth, without spot, undefiled, without blemish, upright. So, we are to walk without a spot, without a wrinkle, upright, without any blemish. This is how we are to walk. But how are we walking right now? We've got to ask ourselves, are we being perfect? What does it mean to be this tamim? Then it says that we are to walk not as fools, but as wise. So we are to discern what the Father is wanting to do, that we are to be perfect, to walk upright, to be without spot, to be without wrinkle, to clean us up. Redeeming the time, because the days are evil. So you see, darkness is creeping in on us by the second at the moment. It's getting darker and darker. It's getting more and more evil every day. Therefore, do not be unwise, but understand what is the will of Yahuwah. What the will of Yahuwah is. Do not be unwise, but understand what the will of Yahuwah is. Now, you see, this is why I'm saying, in that dream, he said, a little leaven leavens the whole bunch. You need to make sure that you are discerning that if you sow to the flesh, you will reap of the flesh. If you sow to the Spirit, you will reap of the Spirit. And a little leaven leavens the whole bunch. So therefore, is what you're doing the will of the Father? Are you walking according to His will? Or are you walking according to your own ways? Or are you walking according to what sounds good, what is religious? Because we're clearly going to differentiate between who these multitudes are and who does it mean to be walking perfect before Him. What does it mean? There is a distinction between these people, because He's saying we are to see then that you walk circumspectly, see then that you walk exactly, accurately, diligently, perfectly, that you walk tamim with Him, that you are without spot, that you are without a wrinkle, that you have truth within your innermost being. Therefore, do not be unwise, but understand what the will of Yahuwah is. So therefore, we really need to be able to get to a place of understanding Abba's will. So are we praying about things and asking Abba, is this your will for my life? Or do we just do things because it sounds good? Or we just do things because we think it's a good idea? And how many things are we doing that in the religious box, it's right, but according to Abba's word, it's wrong? How many of us are doing that? Because we are going to get to a differentiation between who these people are, the multitudes in the valley of decision, that He's talking to them and saying, these are those in the valley of decision that have decisions to make. And today, Abba is going to want to cry out to a people to say, today you need to make a decision, because He's not interested in mixed seed anymore. Because He's coming for a bride that is without spot or wrinkle. So we're going to look at this bride without spot or wrinkle. So let's go and read Ephesians chapter 5 verse 26. So we're going to look at Ephesians 5 verses 26 to 27. Okay. Ephesians 5 verse 26, Ephesians 5, 26 to 27, in order to set us apart. So let's start from 25. Husbands, love your wives as Messiah also loved the assembly and gave Himself for it. So Yeshua gave Himself for us to become, so that we can become His bride. So this is talking about a husband and a wife. It's talking about a bride. So Yeshua is going to use the message of a husband and a wife to be able to bring a message of what is it that He's trying to do. What is it that He's trying to do when He says, I need you to be perfect. I need you to be a spotless bride. I need you to be blameless. He says, in order to set it apart and cleanse it with the washing of the water by the word. So He's setting apart a people, a remnant of people, the assembly which is not just this ecclesia church. It's really about a remnant of people. It's a bride. In order to set it apart and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word. So it's important that you remember that. It's the washing by the water and the word. So he washes us with his word. Important that you take note of that. In order to present it to himself, a splendid assembly, not having spot or wrinkle or any of the sort, but that it might be set apart and blameless. So Abba's looking for a set apart and blameless bride that has no spot, that has no wrinkle, which is actually perfect. So when he talks about walking circumspectly before him, do not act as unwise, but as wise, because the days are evil, and you need to walk circumspectly before him, which means you need to walk perfect before him. He says, be you perfect as I am perfect. Be you set apart as I am set apart, is what Abba says. And what does it mean, that perfect? That means tamim, which is without spot, without wrinkle, which is upright, which is walks in truth. So he's going to wash his bride with the word, and she's going to be without spot, without wrinkle. She's going to be blameless. She's going to be perfect before him, because he's busy setting apart a bride, a people, a remnant of people unto himself, which is a holy priesthood. Okay, let's go and look at Ephesians 1 verse 4. So while we just stay in Ephesians. Ephesians 1 verse 4 says, and even as he chose us in him. So he chose us, this remnant, he chose us in him before the foundations of the world. He chose these people. He chose a people. Let's just say a people. Before the foundations of the world, that we should be set apart and blameless before him in love. So let's look at verse 3. Blessed be Elohim, the Father of our Master Yeshua Messiah, who has blessed us with every spiritual blessing in the heavenlies in Messiah. So do we have an excuse for us not to be set apart and blameless before him when he's given us every spiritual blessing that we need, every spiritual gift that we will need in order to be able to do what? As he chose us in him before the foundations of the world, that we should be set apart and blameless before him in love. So he's looking for a set apart people that will be blameless. So I'm looking at those multitudes in the valley of decision. He says, these are those that need to make decisions to follow me. But what does it mean, the decisions to follow me? You need to be set apart. You need to be blameless. You need to be able to make a decision to be able to follow me and my ways. You need to be without spot. You need to be without wrinkle. You need to be tamim. You need to be perfect. Let's go look at 1 Thessalonians 5:23. Thessalonians 5:23 says, and Elohim of peace himself set you completely apart. So is he wanting to set apart people? What was he saying to me in that dream? These are those. But you need to be making a decision to be set apart. That's why he said to me after that dream, now Natalia, you need to make a decision to be set apart. You are no longer part of this world. You are no longer part of these people's ways. You are no longer part of this mixed seed. You are no longer part of this mixed seed that is not making a decision to follow me. Because they have a leaven that is still of the ways of the world. And is still attached not only to the world, but a lot of them were not only unsaved people, they were saved people that were still part of pagan customs and traditions, religious ways that are not his ways. And he says, we need to be able to make a decision now to come out of all of this. We need to make a decision now to walk, because he wants to wash us with his word. His word is what needs to wash us so that we may be able to walk circumspectly, that we can walk perfect before him, without spot, without wrinkle, so that we can have bitamim, which is walking in truth. So he says, verse 23, peace and allure of peace himself set you completely apart, and your entire spirit and being and body be preserved blameless at the coming of our Master Yeshua Messiah. Do you understand? He is looking for a people that are going to be blameless, that are going to be set apart, so that there will be no spot or wrinkle found in them. This spotless bride. Today, may there be one thing that you may be able to get out of this today. I pray in the name of Yeshua that you will understand that Abba is looking for a remnant of people that are set apart unto Him. And I pray that at the end of this entire restoration plan, that this is what people will understand. That Abba is not going to accept everything that just goes because it sounds good to you, because it looks good to you, because it feels good to you, because it's about your flesh, or because it's about your religion, or it's because it's about the religious system that you've been given, or because of your ideas or your understandings that you've gleaned from wherever you've got it from. You will understand that He is looking for a blameless and a spotless bride that's going to be washed by His word. His word is truth, and you will walk in those truths, because that is what's going to make you be set apart unto Him. And that is what He's wanting us to understand in this day. Colossians 1:22. Colossians 1 verse 22. Okay, so let's read from 21. And you who were once estranged and enemies in the mind by wicked works, by now He has completely restored to favor in the body of His flesh through death, to present you set apart and blameless and unreprovable before Him. How many times do we have to read it? I'm going to read it a few times so that it starts to seep in, that we understand we are to be a set apart, blameless. And what are the works that you are doing? Because that's going to become important. Father's not interested in your works of your righteousness, of what you think is righteous before Him. Abba has His way of being righteous. And that is what we're going to look at. Okay? Right. So we will stop there with, as you can see, how many scriptures we've done where He's looking for a spotless bride, where He's looking for a set-apart bride, where He's looking for one that will be blameless, where He's looking for one that's going to be set apart unto Him. And He's going to wash her with the word. And this is a bride. Now the second scripture that Abba gave me to this dream was from Joel 3:14 to 17. So let's go look at Joel 3. And once again, I want to read it in the New King James, because it's amazing. Because this is exactly what He said to me. These are the multitudes in the valley of decision. Natalia, these are the multitudes in the valley of decision. And I said, they are many. Now listen to this. Joel chapter 3 from verses 14 says, multitudes in the valley of decision. I can't make these things up, not even if I tried. Multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of Yahuwah is near in the valley of decision. So while you are still deciding whether you're going to serve Him or not the way He wants to be served, I want you to know that the day of destruction is at hand. And in my dream, these were the multitudes that had to make a decision to follow Him. But what were they doing? They were still indecisive. They were enjoying their life where they were, and they were not making the decision to truly be set apart and follow Him, to be blameless before Him, to be washed with truth, to come into His truth. It says, for the day of Yahuwah is near in the valley of decision. So while you sit in your decision to be made, the day is drawing near. The day of Yahuwah is drawing near. The sun and the moon will grow dark, and the stars will diminish their brightness. Is this not what's spoken of before Yeshua comes in Matthew chapter 24? The stars will be able to not give its light, nor the moon, nor the sun. All these things are the signs that will be there before the coming of Yeshua. Yahuwah also will roar, which means he will rumble, he will thunder as he goes to battle. That's that roar. He will roar from Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem. The heavens and the earth will shake, but Yahuwah will be a shelter for his people and the strength of the children of Israel. So, wow. Now you see something here. He will be a shelter for his people. Which people? For everybody? Is he going to be a shelter for? He said these were the multitudes in the valley of decision. They had decisions to make to be able to follow me. Because if you follow me, you are my sheep. My sheep will hear my voice, and the voice of a stranger they will not follow. While I'm on that verse, because I tell you, I keep coming up with this verse. I need you to read it carefully to what it says. John chapter 10. Listen carefully. But Yeshua spoke and said, I have told you, and you do not believe the works that... Okay, it says... Verse 26, John chapter 10, verse 26. But you do not believe because you are not of my sheep, as I said to you. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. Now that word know, we're going to get into detail when we read Matthew chapter 17. To know is to perceive, recognize, understand, become acquainted with, as a husband and a wife in intimacy. So, I know them and they follow me. They follow me. They obey me. He said these are those in the valley of decision that need to make a decision to follow me and my ways. Now he says, my sheep hear my voice and I know them and they follow me. Are we following him in the way he wants to be served? Or are we giving him all this nice fruit of our labor? But what is it? What is it? Are we following his will and his way? Or are we giving him our religious performance that we do for him? That we perform for him in our religious acts that we do for him. And I give them everlasting life, and they shall by no means ever perish, and no one shall snatch them out of my hand. So, do you see? He's talking over here about, but Yahuwah will be a shelter for his people and the strength of the children of Israel. So you shall know that I am Yahuwah your Elohim, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then Jerusalem shall be holy, and no alien shall ever pass through her again. This is John chapter 3. This is the scripture that when I prayed and I said, Father, what are you showing me? Give me a scripture to this word, to this John. The one that we read was John chapter 10, and it was from verses 26 to 28. I mean, if we just read this, okay, we'll go back then to John. I mean, this John chapter 10, because I just happened to have it open there. And my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give them everlasting life, and they shall by no means ever perish, and no one shall snatch them out of my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of my hand. Do you see? I and my Father are one. That is why he's not Elohim, made up of many. He is Alua. That's because he said the Father and I are Echad, one. We are Echad. We are one. We are not made up of many. Balim, like an im, makes it multiples of many. He's not a multiple of many. He is one with his Son. So therefore he is Alua. Then we go back again. Let's read Joel chapter 3 again. So it says, multitudes, Joel chapter 3 from verse 14, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of Yahuwah is near in the valley of decision. So the Father is saying to you, You are the multitudes in the valley of decision. Understand the day of Yahuwah is drawing near in the valley of decision. The sun and the moon will grow dark, and the stars will diminish their brightness. Yahuwah will roar from Zion, because that roar is the word in the Strong's Concordance, sha'ach, which is to roar as a lion, to rumble, to thunder. So that roar is like a rumble and a thunder, because when he comes as a thunder and a lightning. He will roar, which is a thunder and a lightning, and it talks about that in the Psalms, that when he comes it will be like a thunder and a lightning that we will see. And utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth will shake. So we just read that last week, or the week before when we did Haggai, that from the time we read Zephaniah and when we read Haggai, that talks about the day of Yahuwah that is coming and that is going to shake the heavens and the earth. But Yahuwah will be a shelter to his people. See, that's what's important. He will be a shelter to his people and the strength of the children of Israel. So you shall know that I am Yahuwah, your Eloah, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then Jerusalem shall be holy, and no alien shall ever pass through her again. Now, did we read, when we were reading at the end of Zephaniah, that we talked again about he's going to bring you to his holy mountain, to Zion? Yeah, it talks again about his holy mountain, Zion, and no unclean thing. No alien shall pass through her again. Let's see what it says in this one. Then you shall know that I am Yahuwah, your Eloah, dwelling in Zion, my set-apart mountain, and Jerusalem shall be set apart, and foreigners shall not pass through her again. So, if you are not walking in the ways of Yahuwah, you will be seen as a foreigner. Because who was the covenant given with? Eretz Israel. And every foreigner had to be grafted into that covenant, isn't it? Okay. So, this has been, when I touched on John chapter 10, because it's so interesting, because as I was praying more about this dream, Abba has really given me John chapter 17 to go and read John chapter 17. And it's interesting, as we go reading to John chapter 17, we're going to be able to then tie up John chapter 17, even with John chapter 10, even with Joel, what he says about Yahuwah will also, the heavens and the earth will shake, because Yahuwah will be a shelter to his people. Because his people are those who hear his voice, and the voice of a stranger they will not follow. And they follow him wherever he goes. And he knows them. So, let's go and look at John chapter 17. Because then I want to tie in John chapter 17 and then John chapter 10. That just came to me right now as I was just, like I said, as I was speaking. John chapter 10 just came to me as a sheep will hear his voice. So, I want to start from verse 2. And I actually want to cover John chapter 17, because this is of the utmost importance, because we need to understand this dream is talking about a set-apart people. And he's talking about multitudes in the valley of decision. The scripture that he gave me is that he said, wake up. We need to wake up. We need to wake up out of that place where we are in our slumber. We are asleep. And we need to walk circumspectly before him. We need to walk exactly. We need to walk perfectly, which means without spot, without blemish. We need to be perfect. And then we've looked at a whole lot of scriptures that he has, where he said he came to wash us with the word, and where he's come to be able to present us to be blameless before the Father. So we are now going to look at John chapter 17 to be able to bring this all together in terms of this dream. That, no. You know what I'm going to do? Okay, I'm going to share the next vision. And as I share the next vision, then we will come back here and we'll put it all together, because we will understand. No, I have to share the next vision. So let me, instead of us going to John chapter 17, let me share. So this was the dream that I had in 2014 on the 24th, the evening of the 24th, actually the morning of the 25th of October. And then on the 6th of May 2015, the following year, what happened was, that day I actually had two friends of mine that were going to come and see me. They were coming to visit, but before that I had been on the phone with two friends of mine. The one friend, I was busy chatting to her, and she was in such a place, she had gone into a place of like absolute depression, because her daughter was going through she wanted to divorce her husband, because her husband had been into pornography and, various different things, and she had found out about the fact that he had been involved, also had an affair and things like that. And anyway, she was wanting to go through a divorce, and with two beautiful little boys, small little boys still that she had. And both of them, they know the father, these youngsters, and yet this is the situation that they were in. And the mother was in such a place of in a distraught place, and she really truly loves Abba. And anyway, then I got a phone call, so I just really had a burden in my heart for her and in what she was going through with her daughter. Anyway, then I had another friend of mine that phoned me, and he was in an absolute state, because his son had run away from home, and he got into drugs, and he went into fornication and got involved with this woman, and major issues that happened there as well. And so after both these phone calls, I was just carrying a heavy heart to see that there was a lot of trials and testings and things going on in the body of Messiah, where people are really going through many things. Anyway, I then sat and I came and I sat at my table, at my dining room table, and I just made myself some breakfast. And as I was going to sit down and eat, my two friends arrived that came to visit, and I'm sitting at the table and I'm having my breakfast, and I just started to share with one of my friends, well, with both of them actually, that I was sharing with them, how my heart is just feeling a little bit, grieved for what is going on. And let me tell you something, just to show you that Father can use anybody at any time, and that you don't have to be in this holy mode, because I was in no holy mode. I was having my breakfast. So just in case people think, wow, she's just so holy. No, I'm just sitting at my table having my breakfast and just feeling Father's, I was a little bit upset in my spirit because of what's going on with these two people. And all of a sudden, I started to feel more of Abba's heart. And now I started to really feel his burden of what he's feeling for what's going on out there. For the absolute darkness of what's going on with mankind. And now I started to feel his heart and him grieving now, and his burden. No longer my burden now. I go into his burden and how I'm feeling his heartbeat and how I'm feeling how he feels about this whole situation. And I just started repenting and saying, Father, forgive, Father, forgive. And I just see this great darkness all around me, and I'm really just repenting and saying, Abba, please just forgive us. More and more I'm crying uncontrollably as he is now. I'm travailing already as he's putting his burden upon my heart of how he feels towards what mankind is doing to him. And all of a sudden, I am in a full-blown vision. As now I started to bend over here by my table, and I am seriously travailing and praying and as I'm feeling Abba's heart, and he opens up my eyes, and now I am standing like Noah on an ark. And I'm standing there, and I'm looking outside, and I see a sea of people. I can't tell you how many people. And some of them are screaming, others are swearing, others are crying, and screaming, swearing me, crying, and they're trying to get into the ark. But these ark doors are closing. And now I become desperate for these people, because I can see that some of them are seriously, they were, crying out, really, that he would help them. And all of a sudden, as I'm standing on this ark, I realize Yeshua standing next to me. And now I turn around and I say to Yeshua, please, please, have mercy. Please, will you let them come in? And he said, no, Natalia, I cannot let them come in, no. No, they will not come in. And I said, why? And I really started weeping as these people were so desperate. And he said to me, I have sent them servant after servant after servant, and they will not listen. It's too late. They cannot come in. And you know what? I just wept. As I looked at these people, there was all these people on the other side. Outside these doors, and these ark doors were closing. And I was asking him, please, please, can you let them come in? And he said, no. He said, no. I have sent them servant after servant, and they will not listen. And then he said to me, I no longer want you to pray for them. You pray for my bride. You pray for my remnant. You pray for those that are mine, my people. And that was hectic. And I was weeping and weeping, and it was so difficult for me, and I came out of that vision. And as I came out of that vision, I just had a strong sense that immediately myself and my two friends went into prayer, and we just started praying, and we started interceding. And even everything that came out of our prayers and everything that we did, it was praying for the bride. It was washing the bride. It was about the bride. It was praying for this remnant of people that was the bride, that we needed to make sure that we equip the bride. Now this was very difficult for me, but then again, you know what? Abba has different people that pray for different things, I suppose. I suppose I am called for a remnant of people, and I'm to pray, and a lot of the prophetic work that I do has a lot to do with that. And I just didn't understand this, and this really grieved me. But I know that a lot of the work that the Father has me do, and a lot of the prayer that the Father has me do is a lot that's got to do with this remnant, that's got to do with His bride. And that's why it was so interesting when that Ethiopian pastor said to me, Natalia, you have a message, but the message that you have is for a remnant of people. I've understood it's about a remnant. It's not for everybody. And that explains it. So that's why now I want to read John chapter 17, because John chapter 17 is going to confirm many things, because this is such important scripture, because this vision of me being Noah on an ark was very tormenting for me. And in 2015, it was so vivid and so real that I really felt like this was it. The ark doors were closing now, and that's it. You either in or you either out. And I have prayed a lot about what does it mean, this ark? What does it mean? And this is why the rest of what I'm going to go into now is to be able to make you understand, for you to understand what is this ark, which is really going to be the ark of His presence. And all the scriptures that we're going to go into now, into what Abba was doing, because you know what is so interesting? After this vision, this was just before Shavuot. And it was just before Shavuot that Abba said, it was at the time I was preparing for Shavuot, then in 2015, that the Father said, you need to be able to release my priests. But that weekend was aborted, as this is what we were supposed to do, but then we didn't follow through because things happened in that weekend where people came and interfered with what Abba wanted to do, and it was basically aborted. So what I was supposed to do didn't happen. And that's why I'm saying, isn't it that there was a delay? Because everybody really believed that 2015 things were supposed to happen. Yet there seems to have been. We had the blood moons, we had everything. We had a September the 23rd that happened then. That was the day of Yom Kippur. And all these things were supposed to happen. And the instruction that we were given was that Abba had us in 2015. Those scriptures, every scripture that I have shared with you, that was 3 weeks or so of teachings that I did from that one dream of the fireworks display, of the missiles, of the planets lining up. Those scriptures we had to declare at that Yom Teruah of 2015. That Yom Teruah of 2015, Abba told us we had to go to every one of the gates in Jerusalem, to the 8 gates, and declare those very scriptures and release them in the scriptures at the gates. And isn't it interesting? It is at the gates that judgment is released. It's at the gates where the judges, when the judges would hear a case, it would be at the city gates. Now, that is something that has only come to my real understanding this year, that I really came to the understanding that it's at the gates where the judges would sit and where judgment would be passed, would be at the gates. And isn't it interesting that every one of those scriptures of that very dream was released at the 8 gates in Israel? And then, at 7 gates, and then the 8th gate is the golden gate, which is then where we had to be able to release His glory. But at the 7 gates, we had to release each one of those scriptures. And that was in 2015, that Abba asked us to do that. And everything of this Noah's Ark dream and a vision and the dream of them, being set apart, all of this was all together a work that Abba asked me to do. Now He tells me that we are in this 3rd day. And this is now when He's trying to get us to be able to come into that place of where a bride needs to raise up now. A set apart, pure bride. A pure priestly bride that needs to rise up in this hour. That needs to do the greatest work that He has for her to do. So we are going to look at John chapter 17, and then from there work through certain scriptures for us to be able to understand what is it that Abba is saying. So I'm going to start from verse 2. As you have given Him authority over all flesh, that He should give everlasting life to all whom you have given Him. So we start at the beginning. Why not start at the beginning? Yeshua said these words and lifted up His eyes to heaven and said, Father, the hour has come. Esteem your Son, so that your Son also might esteem you. As you have given Him authority over all flesh, that He shall give everlasting life to all whom you have given Him. Now, remember, we just read in John chapter 10, and I will give them everlasting life, and they shall by no means ever perish, and no one shall snatch them out of my hand. And he's saying that he shall give everlasting life to all whom you have given him. So understand, this was part of Yeshua's purpose and plan, was to come to bring us everlasting life. But you see, we have not really understood what everlasting life is. So let's look at the next verse. In verse 3. And this is everlasting life, that they should know you, the only true Alua, and Yeshua Messiah, whom you have sent. So, what everlasting life is there, apart from the fact that you are to know him? What? So we say, we're going to have everlasting life when we die. His purpose and plan was to reveal to us what everlasting life is. And everlasting life is to know him. That's what he's saying. That is why he's saying here, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give them everlasting life, and they shall by no means ever perish. No one shall snatch them out of my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of my hand. Now remember, they're going to snatch those out of the earth. Remember we read it when we read Zephaniah. We're going back here. This is a dream, that this is summing up everything. No one is going to snatch them out of my hand. Who's going to be snatched from the earth? The wicked. Is it not? The word snatch means to, remember we read that word snatch. It was not a nice word. Remember. Let me see if I can go back. Yeah, snatch away. Consume. Terminate. Come to an end. Abba will root out of the earth that which is evil. That is to snatch. Which is the word suf. That's the word suf. Consume, terminate, come to an end. No one is going to consume them. No one is going to terminate them. No one is going to make them come to an end. Why? Because Abraham was told to be perfect, and Noah was perfect. So Noah and Abraham were perfect. Abba will root out of the earth that which is evil. Remember, we covered it when we went into the dream, the very first dream when I really went and shared the dream of the one that was from Zephaniah chapter 1. This was Zephaniah chapter 1 from verse 2. No one shall snatch them. So now we are tying it back with where he says, in John chapter 10, where he says, no one shall snatch them out of my hand. No one will consume them. No one will terminate them. No one is going to pluck them out. Because they are mine. Why? Because I give them everlasting life. Because what is that everlasting life? They know me. What is that word know? To perceive, recognize, become acquainted with, as a husband and a wife. To perceive, recognize, become acquainted with. In intimacy, as a husband and a wife. I know him. I sat on this chair. I started to feel his heart. I started to know what is in his heart. I started to feel what he's feeling. Because he wants a people to be able to carry his burden. To be able to be those vessels in this day and age that can be able to do the greatest exploits for him on the earth. So now, if we say that we know him, let me just sing as though I'm putting this over here. I might as well just sum it up, because I don't like to give one thing without me finishing it off. Because to know him, if you say, yes, but I know him, you're going to turn around and say, oh, I'm one of those. I have intimacy with him. Oh, you know what? I spend 10 hours. You know, I do 5 hours praise and worship, and then I do 5 hours of prayer. Now let me tell you, what does it mean to know him? And by this we know that we know him, if we guard his commands. The one who says, I know him, and does not guard his commands, is a liar, and the truth is not in him. So we're going to start to paint a picture to see Who is this bride? Who was in the ark? What does it mean to be in that ark? What does it mean to be one that was not in the multitudes of the valley of decision? But whoever guards His word, okay, His word. Remember I said, He will wash you in His word. Whoever guards His word, truly, the love of the love of Eloah has been perfected, has been made tamim, has made them spotless and without wrinkle. Look, and whoever guards His word, the love of Eloah has been perfected. So that love is the perfection of what's going to perfect you. Why? Because His word, it's not love. Love is not a thing that is a feeling. Love is a doing word. Love is because you obey Him. You love Him because you obey His commands. That is how you show that you got to show someone that you love them. If my husband tells me that he loves me, but he never acts like one who loves me, then what does it mean that he loves me? Love is not just something that you speak. If you truly love the Father, you will obey Him, because that's what the word says. So it says, and whoever guards His word, truly the love of Eloah has been perfected in him. By this we know that we are in Him. The one who says he stays in Him ought to himself also walk even as He walked. So what did it say there? It says, my sheep hear my voice and I know them and they follow me. Meaning they walk as I walk. They do as I do. They keep what I kept. So, it's not this, oh, you know what? I'm not going to offend my brother, so therefore I don't speak. Let me tell you something. Offense is the thing that's going to come, because the love of many will wax cold. And guess what that love is tied to? That love is the love of obeying Torah. That love is the love of obeying Him, walking in His ways. He says, those are the multitudes in the valley of decision, because they have not made the decision to follow me and keep my ways. And it says, and I will give them everlasting life. So what is this everlasting life? Everlasting life, that they will know me. And by this we know that we know Him, if we guard His commands. So if we're not even guarding His commands, then how can we say that we know Him? Then you are not of those that are receiving everlasting life, because you do not know Him. Because don't see that word everlasting life as just something that you're going to live forever. Because it's a lot deeper than that. Do you see what it's saying? Okay, so now we continue to read. I have esteemed you on the earth, having accomplished the work you have given me, and should do. And now, esteem you with yourself, Father, with esteem which I had with you before the world was. Now listen carefully, because now it's going to start getting interesting, because there's always going to be two things that is going to come up. I have revealed your name to the men whom you gave me out of the world. They were yours, and you gave them to me, and they have guarded your word. Okay, so what are the two things? I have revealed your name, and they have guarded your word. Important to make note of that. I have revealed your name to the men, so please do not come and stand and tell me that the revealing of the name of the Father, if you do not still know that His name is Yahuwah, then you better get on your knees and start to seek Him, for Him to reveal that to you. Because He has a name, and He's revealing it to many people around the world. And I've already touched on that last week, and I'm not going to touch on it again. Now they have come to know that all so they know the name, and they are yours, and you gave them to me, and they have guarded your word. They keep your commands. They keep your ways. Important that you see that. Because those are the two criteria that we're going to look at a little bit later. Now they have come to know that all you gave me is from you. Because the words, once again, the words which you gave to me, I have given to them. And they have received them and have truly known that I came from you, and they believed that you sent me. So Yeshua, did He come and speak a new thing? Or did He speak that which the Father has already given? Now listen. I pray for them. I do not pray for the world. for those whom you have given me, for they are yours. Did you see that? On that ark, he said, I'm not telling you to pray for all of this. I tell you to pray for my remnant. Pray for my bride. Listen carefully to what Joshua says over here in verse 9. I pray for them. Who are them? Those who are keeping my word, those who know my name, those whom I have revealed you to them. He says, I pray for them. I do not pray for the world, but for those whom you have given me, for they are yours. Now, I'm not going to, you go argue this scripture with him. I'm not going to argue. Because the problem is, we do not read our Bible. We do not understand what the Father is busy doing in these last days. He is raising up a people. And these are the multitudes in the valley of decision. And if you want to stay there, the decision is going to keep you to stay there. You make the decision whether you want to stay there or not. Do you see, Joshua was not praying for all of them. This is his last prayer that he's praying before he's going to go in the Garden of Gethsemane. This is what he's praying to his Father there in the Garden of Gethsemane, before he's about to be arrested. And all mine are yours, and yours are mine, and I have esteemed in them, and I have been esteemed in them. And I am no more in the world, but these are in the world, and I came to you. Set apart, Father, guard them in your name. There you go again. Set apart, Father, guard them in your name. Please, you need to make notes of these things because they're going to keep coming up. Guard them in your name. Because that's going to be the seal. Remember, last week I talked about a seal, a mark. Make note of these things. Which you have given me so that they might be one as we are one. So we are going to be one. So you can't have one that is going to say the name like this and another one going to say the name like that and another one going to do this. And we are going to have to become one. A body that is not divided but one in a whole. Now you understand why last week I didn't even understand why I was going on a mission. But now I understand why I was on a mission. I was on a mission because the Father knew what He was going to do this week. He was already setting the stage for what He was going to do this week. And I am no more in the world, but these are in the world, and I come to you. Set apart, Father, guard them in your name, which you have given me, so that they might be one as we are. When I was with them in the world, I was guarding them in your name. Amazing. So already when he was in the world, he was guarding them in the Father's name. Which you have given me. And I watched over them, and not one of them perished, except the son of destruction, that the scripture might be fulfilled. And now do you see how many times this name comes up? But now people want to tell me that the name is not important. How are we going to be one if we're all divided just on that name alone? But he says we are one. We better get on our knees and we better start seeking. If there's ever a time, you see, this is a time you start to seek. Because we cannot be on separate pages, because he says we are one. And we are to be one in him. This is a remnant he's talking about here. You're going to see this very clearly. This is one of the most powerful scriptures. I've always loved John chapter 17, and only now has it really been opened up to me in a mighty way. Because I'm now understanding this scripture, what it's about. And now he says, I guarded them in your name, which you have given me, and I watched over them, and not one of them perished, except the son of destruction, that the scripture may be fulfilled. And now I come to you, and I speak these words in the world. Now I come to you, and I speak these words in the world, so that they have my joy completed in them. I have given them your word. Again, do you see how many times word and name comes up? I have given them your word, and the world hated them. Are you going to be hated because you speak truth? Oh, for sure. The love of many is going to wax cold, because what are they going to wax cold? Because they're going to hate you, because you're going to stand for what's righteous, which means you're going to stand for the truth of his commands and his ways. And they hated them because they are not of the world, as I am not of the world. I do not pray. Yeah, here we go. You see, this is important. You see, Noah and an ark stayed on the earth. Noah did not get taken off the earth. I do not pray that you should take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the wicked one. So, are you going to fly anywhere? Are you going to be taken out of here, go anywhere? He's already saying, I do not pray that you take them out of the world, but keep them from the evil one that is going to come against them, because you need to stand. That is why the Father's going to get us to be able to pray for this remnant, because we're going to need to know how to stand. Because it's going to get difficult. It's going to get difficult. Understand, all the hordes of hell are going to be unleashed for a time, and it's going to come against us. Do you have any idea? I don't think people have an idea. They are not of the world, as I am not of the world. Set them apart in your truth. Your word is truth. So you see, he's looking for a set apart people. Remember, the one that was going to be without spot or wrinkle, set apart, blameless before him. What are they being set apart in? Truth. In the truth of this word. We're going to get into it more deeper. As you set me in the world, I also sent them. As you sent me into the world, I also sent them into the world. And for them, I set myself apart, so that they too might be set apart in truth. You see, what is going to set you apart? What is going to make you tamei? What is going to make you perfect? What is going to make you without spot, without wrinkle? What is going to make you to be able to be set apart is going to be truth. Because the truth is what sets you free. And so he turns around and he says, we need to be able to be set apart in this truth, because his word is truth. Now, and I do not pray. Now listen. Now there he was praying for those whom he gave him. Now listen to what he says. And I do not pray for these above, but also for those believing in me through their word. So the disciples were going to preach this word, a true gospel, a gospel of truth, a gospel of obedience, a gospel of turning back to the ways of Torah, a gospel of a Torah that is written upon our hearts, a gospel that is not a gospel of just faith, because faith without works is dead. It's a gospel of a faith in the one whom you believe in, to be able to obey what he has told you to obey from the beginning. A gospel that has started from Noah. A gospel that actually started from Adam. A gospel that was given down from the beginning. A righteous remnant that was going to bring a gospel of righteousness, of what it means to be righteous, to be perfect, and to walk with Yahuwah. And that is the same gospel of the people of the last days. So I do not pray for these alone, but for all those believing in me through their word, so that they all might be one, as you, Father, are in me and I am in you. Now do you see why we need to become one? We cannot be divided. We need to become one. We need to get past our differences. We need to get past our things. Now do you understand why last week it was a bone of contention? I still thought, Father, where am I going with all of this? Why am I even going down this place? So that they too might be one in us. So that the world might believe that you have sent me. How do we become a voice out there when we ourselves don't even agree on anything? Especially in this Torah movement. Because what are we gleaning from? Are we just gathering information? Some are gleaning from rabbis. Others are gleaning from preachers out there. What are we gleaning from? We need to start listening to the Father. We need to start being led by the Ruach. Because that is why the Ruach of Elohim was given us. To teach us. To lead us. To guide us. so that we can become those true worshippers who worship Him in spirit and in truth. Truth of this word. And then spirit, hearing His voice. In them, you in me, so that they might be perfected. Do you see? So that they might be perfected. They might become this Tamim people, without spot, without wrinkle, into one. Perfected into one. So that the world knows that you have sent me and have loved them as you have loved me. Father, I desire that those whom you have given me might be with me where I am, so that they see my esteem, which you have given me because you loved me before the foundation of the world. O righteous Father, indeed, the world did not know you, but I knew you, and these knew that you sent me. And now listen, and I have made your name known. Do you see again? I have made your name known to them, and they shall make it known, so that the love which you loved me might be in them and I in them. Please do not stand. And now do you understand why last week I was making an issue about the name? I have made your name known to them, and shall make it known, and shall make it known, so that the love which you have loved me might be in them and I in them. Do you understand? This is the last prayer that Joshua prayed before he was arrested. Before he was taken to the stake and then resurrected. And this is his heart and this is his desire. Do you want to know his will? He has his will.